Hello everyone, it's me, Mechanic, with another theory video. And in this one, I want to talk about a specific topic that has honestly bothered me for quite some time. How much is a ruble worth? And by that I mean the rubles in the stalker games. Because in every single one of the games, every job you do, you get paid in rubles. And it's not Russian rubles, by the way. Absolutely not. We can see in the image that appears every time you get paid that these are Soviet era rubles with a very apparent picture of Lenin in the banknote. The reason for this, as I see it at least, is that the stalkers and traders in the zone have decided to use these old, no longer in circulation Soviet notes for pretty much the same reason that the people in the Fallout games have decided to use bottle caps, for example, because they're no longer being made, and thus are somewhat stable, having a limited amount of them circulating around the zone. They are perfect for stalkers because it allows them to have their own personal currency that is not affected by outside factors. For example, if the stalkers were to use an outside currency, like for example the euro, it could potentially lose value because of things like economic policies, crashes, depressions, and etc. But by using their own specific currency that is limited in quantity and can no longer be made, it creates a stable piece of currency that allows the stalkers to trade and buy what they want without having to worry about the economic situation outside the zone. However, this creates a question. How much is 1 ruble worth? Because eventually, stalkers want to leave the zone. They want to take their riches, sell them off to the traders, and leave the zone. And to do that, they probably also have to convert their rubles into money that could actually be used in the outside world. So now I have been asking myself this question for some days now. What's the conversion rate of the zone ruble? Basically, how much is it worth? Now, before we get into any sort of in-game investigation, we first have to establish something. The zone ruble is most likely not worth as much as you think it is. And for why that is, we need to talk about Soviet currency. The Soviet ruble that we use in game is obviously the legal tender that was being produced during the Soviet times. More specifically, judging by the banknote we see in the in-game image, it seems to be the 6th Soviet, a banknote that was produced between 1961 all the way to 1991, when the Soviet Union fell into a world gig. This creates a bit of an issue, as the Soviet Union was obviously a planned economy and its currency was not open for exchange, at least not officially, so it was also inflated to shit. As you can imagine, there was no point in holding back the money printer, so the currency did not have very good exchange rates. In 1991, for example, right before the collapse of the Soviet Union, $1 was worth 100 rubles. That's how bad the exchange can get. Knowing all of this, we can make one assumption about the zone ruble. The exchange rate probably won't be that great. The zone ruble is probably worth somewhat, if not a lot less, than the currency used outside the zone. Not by some catastrophic amount, mind you, because yeah, they do use the Soviet ruble, but it stopped being used in 1991, and the games take place in like the mid-2000s, so it's been some time since the currency fell out of fashion, so we can assume that it's not as badly inflated as it once was. The exchange will probably be bad, but not that bad. Now, moving on to the next part of this investigation, figuring out the exchange rate. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is easy. Just take something like a gun, for example, and check the difference between its in-game value and its value outside the zone. But it's not that simple. For example, guns are useless for our analysis, by the way. Why? Well, simple. Because the zone is a war zone. Guns are constantly flooding into the zone, which impacts their value. The other problem with using guns is that we don't know how well preserved these guns are, or how many hands these guns have been through. Remember, these are illegal smuggled weaponry. these have been most likely been bought and sold repeatedly.
Where do you get the weapons?
It's a romantic notion that they all came out of the Soviet Union after the collapse. That was a windfall back in 89, maybe through 91, but that's all over. I move weapons, I profit from circulation. You get a ceasefire in Liberia, both sides disarm. You think they slag 2,000 tons of guns? No. They sell them to me. I resell them wherever the next war is starting.
Those same Soviet guns from 1989.
Oh, that's about half. The rest mostly come from old European armies. After they abandoned their colonies in the 60s and 70s, French guns, Dutch, Belgian.
So some of these guns are very old. They've been bought and sold repeatedly.
They're not biodegradable. Only the dead are biodegradable.
All of this factors into the gun's value and for how much it can be sold. Because of this, it's not possible to use the guns of Stalker to find the true value of the ruble. They are simply an asset that's too volatile. So they're useless for our purposes. We also can't use the suits either, for a similar reason. The reason for that is that we can't really verify how much they would cost outside the zone. This is because the suits in Stalker are entirely fictional. Like, look at the Sunrise suit, for example. It's simply described as a craftsman suit made by stalkers. It never goes into detail about its materials. I mean, sure, we can safely assume that it uses, things like Kevlar and whatnot, but that's an assumption, not something concrete. Same for the other suits. We simply don't know what they're made out of to use them as a metric. And we can't use the medical supplies either, because although the simple medkit could work, I guess, the other medkits, such as the Army medkit and the scientific medkit, are considerably rarer. So we can assume that they suffer a huge markup when it comes to price. So we can use them. So what can we use? Well, after some time, I think I got the answer. It's not what you expect, but I think I got the answer. The energy drink. Yes, the energy drink. Now, why? I know what you're saying right now. Why the boomer juice? Well, it's because, and some of you might not know this, but the energy drinks in Stalker are based on a real-life product. One that you can buy right now if you live in Ukraine. The non-stop energy drink. Yes, the energy drink you find in-game is based on, and originally was, a real-life product called Non-Stop. You see, GSC had a marketing deal with this brand of drink to include it in Shadow of Chernobyl. So in some versions of Shadow of Chernobyl, you can find the Non-Stop energy drink. Later on, this was replaced by the one we know and love. But if we keep this in mind, if we remember that the energy drink in the Stalker franchise is based on a real-life brand, then maybe, just maybe, we can use it as our measuring stick. Just remember, energy drink equals Non-Stop. That's all you have to know. And if we keep that in mind, if we assume that's the case, then we can use it to find the value of the ruble. Now, I'm not from Ukraine, so I might be completely off base here, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But from what I could gather, one can of Non-Stop is worth around 15 to 25 hryvnia. I will be using the 25 hryvnia price for my calculations. Again, I'm not from Ukraine, so I could be completely wrong here, but this is what I could find after a grueling one-page Google search. So please, let me know if I'm wrong. Now, knowing that, we can finally make some calculations. An energy drink, just like any product, is sold at a markup, obviously. So, the vendor can make a profit on each item sold. Energy drinks usually receive a 50% markup on their value. So our 25% hryvnia energy drink, if we remove the markup, we get its original price, 12.50 hryvnia. In the games, an energy drink is usually sold by traders for around 50 ru. But again, we need to remove the markup. So instead of 50 ru, the real price is 25 ru. So in the zone, one Non-Stop energy drink is double the value of its outside counterpart. Knowing this, we can finally calculate the value of one Stalker ruble. And we can do this using the following formula. Exchange rate, ER, equals value in currency A divided by value in currency B. With this, it's easy. The energy drink outside the zone is worth 1250 hryvnia, while inside the zone it's worth 25 rubles. So if we punch these numbers into the formula, we get this. ER equals 12.50 hryvnia divided by 25 rubles. This equals 0.5. This means that 1 ruble is worth half a hryvnia. And you know what? The stock of ruble and Ukrainian hryvnia having similar value actually makes a ton of sense once you think about it. Like, seriously, it makes perfect sense that they have similar value. Most stockers are from Ukraine, so having the zone currency have similar value to the currency they use in their country of origin is really convenient for both the trader and the stocker, as it really simplifies the conversion process when a stocker wants to leave the zone. The conversion is simple. The hryvnia is worth double the ruble, so 1 hryvnia, 2 rubles. It's simple and it makes conversion very easy. So for the stockers who are mostly from Ukraine, this is just perfect. Now we can also use this information to find out how much a ruble is worth in other currencies. So 1 hryvnia is worth 0.037 cents USD, but for the sake of simplicity we can round this up to 3 US cents. If we use our knowledge that a ruble is worth half a hryvnia, then 1 stock of ruble is worth exactly 1 cent USD. Yeah, 1 stock of ruble is worth less than 1 USD. That's rough, but oh well. And to top it off, here's the conversion of 1 ruble to both euro and Russian ruble. So 1 stock of ruble is worth 0.85 euro, or 85 cents in euro. 1 stock of ruble is worth 0.96 Russian rubles. At least for now it does. I mean, who knows, the ruble might drop even further, so yeah, you might live to see the day that the stock of ruble is worth more than the real life Russian ruble, so keep that in mind. So that's it for this video, and I gotta say, when I started this video, I thought that the value of the ruble would be something like Venezuela tier. Like, I thought the value would be on the floor. Like, I was expecting it to be, you know, Zimbabwe money or something. But frankly, its value makes a lot of sense. It made a surprising amount of sense once I researched it. I mean, yeah, it's not worth much, but if you keep in mind that the game takes place in Ukraine, its value suddenly makes perfect sense. It's half a hryvnia. I was pleasantly surprised by how much sense it made. Like, I thought it would be completely random and weird, but now it just fits. Anyways, this was a fun experiment to take on, and I probably made some mistakes, so please let me know in the comments down below. And yeah, don't worry, I'm still working on the Ace video and the modded zone video, okay? Don't worry. It's just that I've been very busy these last few months. You know, life. And with all of that said, once again, thank you for watching.